About 4 years ago, my wife and I moved into a condo as renters. It was beautifully maintained and freshly painted. Well, with the exception of the small bedroom upstairs. The room was poorly primered and it always felt cold, but at the time we thought nothing really of it. It was going to be a spare room that we probably would never use anyway. After about 7 months, we had our first grandchild and we decided to move our bed to the small room and use the master bedroom as an office or nursery for when we had our grandson over. My wife, she hated the room because it was so cold all the time. Again, my wife is always cold, so I didn't think much of it, other than to get her an extra blanket. About 3 weeks after we started staying in the room, I began seeing what I thought was a child standing in our walk-in closet. It had no door and was just to the left of the bed, and I would wake my wife and tell her, but she never saw anything. Soon after, I started hearing voices as if someone was right up to my ear.
Look.
And these were all on different occasions too.
Please.
One instance, I could actually feel breath on my ear. I was never asleep as well, as it would always occur within a minute of me getting into bed or something. I would absolutely freak out every single time. Again, my wife never heard a thing though. One night before I got home from work, my wife hears our doorbell ring. She answers the door and a girl in her early 30s is just standing there. My wife says hello and the girl says, "Hey, I'm sorry about the room, okay?" And turns around and gets in her car and just leaves. It was fucking weird. My wife is now genuinely creeped out too. At this point, I'm getting leery of sleeping in my room, so I decided to download a stupid app for my iPad that lets ghosts communicate. I know, it's stupid. If you've seen Ghost Adventures, think Ovulus. And to be honest with you, I'm more appeasing my curiosity than believing that I'm actually going to get any real evidence. A few times, it spouts random words that have no real meaning. But one night, I decided to put the iPad in the closet and turn up the volume. My wife and I, we sit in bed just listening to see if anything happens. After about 10 minutes, it just starts saying, with no more than 2 seconds of pause between each word, Richard, David, Dale, and John. This is when I immediately turn it off and we sleep in the living room. We moved our bed and clothes out of that room the next day too, shut the door and just never went in there again. And we also moved about 6 weeks later. The reason why is because those names are my father's and my brother's names, and they're all deceased. I don't know what the hell was going on in that room, and I don't know if I ever want to. In December of 2012, I joined the Navy. In March of 2014, I moved from one technical school in the Great Lakes to another technical school in Virginia Beach. The first few months in Virginia, I was assigned to a short-term housing situation, a place called the Navy Gateway. It was basically a hotel, but with one twin bed per unit. It was pretty nice actually, as when I wasn't in school, I spent most of my time out on the pier or doing things outside with friends, so I didn't spend much time in my room there except to sleep. A few months into school and I got hit with orders to relocate my living situation to an older barracks. Building 508 was one of the oldest buildings on the base, but the rooms were laid out very differently and the closets were way bigger. The carpets were older and the sheets and the amenities were no longer provided, but to be honest, I was glad. I had plenty of stuff and wanted less involvement with base workers anyway, and I had 6 months left on the base, and I'd much rather live somewhere I can decorate and feel like a miniature apartment, if you catch my drift. But though my daily cleaning service wouldn't come any longer, now I wasn't stuck with mandatory crappy cable that was already in the Navy gateway. I had a cable company come out and wire my room with the loaded digital cable and Wi-Fi package. I spent more time in this room now since some of my friends had left for other duty stations. But the ceilings were 10 feet and I had way more shelves. The only downside though was that my fan and overhead light didn't work with the wireless remote that was by the door. Each unit has 2 bedrooms with closing and locking doors too, and they share a common area with a bathroom, fridge, cabinets, and small sink area. So, the first day I moved over, I remember the door to the room 320A. I had the other bedroom, the 320B, and it was closed. I did a quick inspect and discovered a wet towel hanging on the rack, and moisture in the sink, and then soon after, a voice in the other bathroom. Damn, I thought. I was hoping to have the unit to myself. So, I spent the rest of the afternoon migrating my things from the gateway to 508. On the second trip back to 508, there was a strong aroma of freshly sprayed cologne. But with armfuls of bags, I didn't want to keep digging out my keycard to open my bedroom door, so I locked the deadbolt to keep the door propped open. After about the 4th trip over, after opening the front door into the common space, I noticed my door had been shut. The deadbolt was put back in too, and the door was closed and latched. And my wallet was in my bedroom. Oh great, I thought. My roommate is an inconsiderate boob. So I walked to the building responsible for assigning keycards, which unfortunately was not too close to 508, and asked to be let back into my room. The gal at the front desk and I walked back across the base together, and she let me in. I told her I'm sorry, and the guy who lives in Unit A must have closed the door for some reason. To which she replied, nobody lives in A. I told her that can't be and explained everything that had happened. But she took a master key and opened the door to that room, and it was completely bare. The mattress was flipped up, the drawers pulled out and emptied. Everything was just as it should be for a new resident to move in. Turns out, I actually did have the unit to myself. So that obviously freaked me out a bit. Fast forward a few weeks and fall was moving in. I love fall and cool crisp air, so at night time I'd crack my window open. Sure, it would get too cold by morning, but I love waking up when it's 58 inside and the heater is off. Well, I continued this tradition every night until one night it got really, really cold. It was about 40 outside and not much warmer inside. I was startled awake sometime after midnight by 3 knocks on my door. They were quick, friendly knocks too, mind you. And this came from the outside of my bedroom door, not the unit, so it was in the kitchen and common area. I thought I imagined it, so I waited about 15 seconds, but then it happened again. I got up thinking that someone is obviously wanting to speak with me, and I opened the door, but there was nobody there. Right after it closed, there were 3 knocks again. I thought maybe it was coming from the hallway, so I opened the door again and walked through the common area and checked the peephole into the hallway. Nothing. I went back into my room and looked around. I mean, could there be something loose or swinging or creaking? An animal in the wall. I walked all around the room, quietly looking and listening for anything, but there was nothing. Nothing happened for another minute or two, too, so I just went back to bed. but the second I pulled the covers up over me, there were 3 knocks again. And this time, they definitely had to have been on my door, no question about it. I walked up to the door, but I didn't open it this time. I just looked at it. And then there were 3 more knocks. 10 more seconds of staring and then 3 more knocks again. At this point, it really hadn't even crossed my mind that it could be something paranormal. I was just so unbelievably baffled at what could be causing this. The room was still cold from my opening the window all night, but a combination of realizing that I think something paranormal is going on and maybe the feeling of some of the energy shift, I began to shudder. I mean, it must have been 20 degrees in that room just then. And realizing that something bigger than me was at work here, my attitude shifted dramatically right then. My demeanor went from aggressive, oh my gosh, shut up, to very submissive, like, what can I do to not have a horror movie made up about me? Long story short, I ran over to the window and shut it, and the knocks just stopped. I felt much more comfortable, and the mood in the room instantly brightened up, and for some reason, I felt like the room was more peaceful, or at least whatever this was didn't want to bother me. I, of course, had to test this theory over the coming months. The window open always got the 3 knocks, and they always stopped when I'd shut it. I'd have friends over to hang out sometimes and tell them and show them, and they were all supremely freaked out. I'm not sure what anyone else will think of this, but I was certainly convinced that there was something paranormal going on in that room. So, I was about 12, staying at a friend's house one night, and he had a big old house that was in the country with no neighbors. We were playing some Nintendo 64 one night, and his mum and sister left to go to the store to pick up a movie, so we were the only ones home. A little after they left, we heard his sister's door slam hard enough to knock a few picture frames off the wall. We looked at each other and laughed, thinking that his sister was pissed and stayed home or something. Time went by and we decided to get something to eat and went downstairs. As we were heading downstairs, we noticed that his sister's room light is on and we can hear the TV. We both grab some cereal, and as we sit in the kitchen, his mum pulls into the driveway. Next thing, his mum and sister walk in. We both look at each other and say that we thought that you stayed home, tell them what happened, and go upstairs to find her bedroom door locked and the lights and the TV on. We unlock the door and there's no one in there. Around that time, things started happening over the next couple of months too, like random noises and things being misplaced and found in weird spots. But one night, his dad works nights and goes to work, so his mum is alone with the kids, and she was laying on the couch covered with a blanket when something grabs the blanket and drags it into the basement. Like, not even opening the door, just ripping it through the crack underneath. Before she even had time to fully freak out, she hears her daughter scream and runs upstairs. She opens the door and her daughter is sitting up in her bed, which has been moved to the middle of the room, and all the pictures on one wall, they were all ripped down. She grabbed both kids and just left the house and told her husband that she would never be going back to that house, which she never did, not even to pack up or help move. Years later, I was like 19 or something, and my friend and I were drinking and sitting around a fire when people started telling creepy stories. We looked at each other and told them about what happened at his house, which neither of us really ever talked about it. The house was actually now abandoned, and as soon as we said where it was, of course, everyone wanted to go. So, the 5 of us drive out to the house in the middle of the night, and we find a way in. The house is pretty much empty, and actually not in that bad of shape. The paint started to peel and has that old empty house feel. We go through the whole house, and 3 of us are in the basement, which is all cement and has 2 rooms divided by an open doorway. We're about to go back upstairs when our buddy finishes his bottle of beer and he throws it into the other room. But it never makes a sound. Well, that was enough for us to leave. While I didn't have much happen while I was at their house, this was like my second family, and they never talked about that house or what happened. If it was ever brought up in front of his mum, the subject would quickly change, or she would just walk away. G'day mates, it's Busta here, and I hope you guys enjoyed this week's stories. So, I just wanted to remind you guys quickly that I actually launched a new weekly podcast, Be Scared, a little while back that you can check out if you wish. It's a Castbox original, so I hope you check it out on Castbox, but it's also available everywhere you normally listen to podcasts to today. I'm adding a link in the description below so that you guys can subscribe there if you wish, and the podcast will be weekly and will feature stories from No Sleep, series stories, and the occasional set of true scary stories too. It's completely free to subscribe there, and you can even download the Castbox app on your phone so you don't miss anything. And it would actually be really cool if you guys could review the podcast too, as it should help with rankings and all that stuff. Also, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in every week and being here. Without all of you guys, this podcast would have never happened, so thank you guys for being so supportive and tuning in every week. I'm actually super excited to be able to share this with you guys, and it's been really cool to see so many of you guys come on over, so thanks again everyone. As always, it would also be great if you could like, share and subscribe, and thanks so much for listening guys, and I'll see you mates in the next one.